Allah is my heart's speech, your mercy is what I beseech. Keep in my heart your remembrance, and in your deen allow me to advance. Help me in my quest, permit me to pass the ultimate test. Help me in my quest.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على عبده ورسوله الأمين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه ومن اهتدى بهديه واستنى بسنته إلى يوم الدين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to a new episode of Ask Huda, where I will try my best to answer the questions that I have knowledge in answering, inshallah. And as we are waiting for your phone calls to come through, I have a number of emails waiting to be answered. And this is an email from a sister in the UK. She says that in her university there is a group of students who have formed an association which holds Islamic lectures for about 15 to 20 minutes. And each sister has registered her name, those especially who are interested in giving such advice and giving such nasiha to the other sisters. Now, she's saying that she is hesitant to apply, though the other sisters are encouraging her to do so. And she says that she knows that it is not to propagate deen to the others unless you reform yourself, your family and relatives. So how can she compromise? How can she behave in such a situation? Well, first of all, sister, Jazakallah khair, may Allah Azza wa Jal reward you for your fear from saying something without knowledge. And this is something that Allah Azza wa Jal has encouraged us to do. And Allah Azza wa Jal has warned us from speaking without knowledge, as mentioned in chapter 7 verse 33, where Allah tells us about the 4 forbidden things, and on the top of the list is to say what you do not have knowledge of. وَأَن تَقُولُوا عَلَى اللَّهِ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. However, there are other hadiths where the Prophet ﷺ encourages us to propagate Islam. Even if it was one verse of the Quran, he encourages people to deliver what they have learnt exactly as they had learnt it, because those listening to them might be more knowledgeable and might have more comprehension to what they had learnt than them. Therefore, it would not be logical to ask you to wait until you reform yourself, your relatives, your loved ones, your neighbors, your family, and then after doing that you would propagate. This is not logical. Simply because the Prophet ﷺ did not do that. Once he was instructed to deliver the message, he did. Shaitan did not come to him and say, listen, your uncle Abu Lahab did not accept Islam, your uncle Abu Talib did not accept Islam, this and that. No. He immediately delivered the message. Now, this doesn't mean that you should not work on yourself. You should work on yourself. You should try to fix your shortcomings and to avoid them as much as possible. But this might not be with immediate effect. This may take a little bit longer than you think. However, this would not prevent you from delivering, from preaching, from advising others with things that you have knowledge and you know that you can benefit people with it. And if it were only for those who are perfect to preach and not for anyone else, no one would have ever thought of preaching or advising or lecturing others. Therefore, 15 to 20 minutes, it's not a long period. You can prepare something, and you can also, after preparing it, ensure that you're the first to apply it on yourself. So if you're going to talk about night prayer, make a 15 to 20 minute talk or a dars or a lesson or a lecture. But before giving it, try to apply it in yourself. Try you yourself to offer night prayer, and likewise in all the other issues as well. And the second email is from Sister Sidra, and she has a number of questions. So the first question is, can we do sajda of tilawa when we recite an ayah of prostration in the fard salah? So she's asking about the ruling on offering the prostration of recitation. As we know, there are a number of locations in the Quran where it is recommended when a person recites this ayah to offer a prostration for recitation, for this particular ayah. So she's asking, now if I'm in prayer and I happen to recite this particular ayah, what would I do? Would I interrupt my recitation and offer this prostration, or what? The answer is, the Prophet ﷺ, as we know from his sunnah, every Friday morning salah, Fajr prayer of Friday, he used to recite 2 surahs only. In the first rak'ah, he used to recite Surah As-Sajdah, and in the second rak'ah, he used to recite Surah Al-Insan. And as we know, Surah As-Sajdah includes a prostration of recitation. And that is why the scholars say that the Prophet used to do this every single Fajr prayer on Friday. And this answers your first question. It is recommended to offer this prostration whether you are in fard prayer or in your voluntary prayer. But it is not a must. If you skip it, there is nothing wrong in that, but no one would rather skip something that is highly recommended. Our brother Saeed from UAE, Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah, Sheikh.
Hayyak Allah, bro.
How are you, Sheikh?
I'm fine, alhamdulillah. What can I do for you?
Yes, Sheikh. There's one lady who wants to travel and to see her mother in her home country.
Okay.
And, traveling, the lady traveling alone without mahram. So she's asking how to do. She has a husband, and his husband, he doesn't like traveling. He has kind of phobia that on traveling. He doesn't like to travel by car or plane. So what can she do?
Okay. Any more questions, Brother Saeed?
Thank you very much.
Hayyak Allah. The brother is asking about a situation that happens so often, especially for those who are married from outside of Arabia. People who are married from Europe, from Far East, from the US. They get this problem every year. And it's not actually a problem. It depends how you look at it. For us men, it is a big problem because it involves tickets, traveling, taking time off your holiday, and going to a different country, and Allah knows what happens there. But the ruling is obvious. What's the ruling on a woman traveling without a mahram? The Prophet ﷺ is the one who answered this question. And he said that it is not permissible for a woman who believes in Allah and who believes in the Day of Judgment to travel without a mahram. And as I've always repeated this hadith, which is authentic, it's extremely authentic, a man stood up and said, "O Prophet of Allah, my name was drawn and I'm supposed to go in an expedition with the Muslims for jihad. But my wife went for Hajj. Now you're saying this, what should I do?" The man simply said, the Prophet ﷺ, and he's the man, he said that go and catch your wife, which means go and accompany your wife. So the Prophet ﷺ instructed him to leave jihad to accompany his wife. Now the Prophet did not ask him ﷺ if she was beautiful or ugly, if she was young or old, if she was black or white, if she was in the company of trustworthy women or she was on her own. The Prophet did not ask him any of these questions, which means that it is prohibited for a woman, any woman, to travel without a mahram, regardless of her condition, unless it is something of extreme necessity, which means it's a matter of death or life. So this is something different, because if it's a matter of extreme importance to the extent that if she doesn't travel, she would be killed, she would be harassed, she would be harmed, and in this case it's a different situation, and it cannot be an open fatwa. It has to be in specific situations for a particular individual. Now the problem is that the brother says that her husband has this phobia. Now, I know some husbands claim to have this phobia only when they travel with their wives. But if they're on their own, if they're going to ski in Switzerland, or if they're going to spend the time in Nice or Cannes at summer, at the Côte d'Azur, it's okay. They don't have this phobia. No, he has to fear Allah if he's like this. But if he's truly has this phobia, he cannot travel alone or with anyone else, and then he has to have his trust in Allah Azza wa Jal. He has to offer himself ruqya to encourage himself to have full dependence, because phobia means that he's not having full dependence and tawakkul and reliance on Allah Azza wa Jal. So he has to work on himself. But the poor woman is asking, until he fixes himself, until he gets therapy or treatment, what should I do? The answer is, you should either try to pay money to one of your siblings, your father, your uncles, who's a mahram to you, even if he's not a Muslim, to travel to your country, accompany you to visit your parents for the summer or for the vacation, and then come back, and Allah Azza wa Jal knows best. I believe that Abu Hamza from Syria is with us on the phone. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Sheikh, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
It is forbidden to take a loan with riba.
True.
But what about buying things like a house with extra price? Is it permissible?
Are you buying it from the same owner or through a third party?
Through a third.
Okay, I'll answer this inshallah.
Thank you.
Hayyak Allah, bro.
Salam.
The brother is asking about the ruling on buying property, buying items, buying a car through installments, but not from the owner himself, rather through a third party. This is not permissible when the third party actually does not have any risk on him. Meaning, it's like Shelok, the Jew. He just sits there with all the money in front of him, and Tom and Harry, they both want to exchange something. One wants to buy and the other wants to sell. However, the one who wants to sell does not want to wait. He wants the money in cash. So they go to Shelok, the Jew, who is most famous in dealing with riba, with interest, with usury. So the one wanting to buy, he says, listen, I'd like to buy this man's car, but I can't afford it. And he wants 100,000 in cash. So this Jew, this person dealing in riba says, no problem, I'll buy it for you, but you will have to buy it from me for 125,000. So it's 25% interest. If they all agree, then the transaction takes place. I give this man his 100,000, and I take the car and give it to that man, and he owes me 125,000. This is completely forbidden, because there is no risk on my part. It's exactly as if I lent this man 100,000 and he is going to pay it back to me 125. I don't even know what the color is, the car is. I haven't seen it. Likewise with your house. When is this transaction permissible? When there is risk on the third party. And how is that? I go to the bank and I say, oh bank, do you see this house in this street on the street, number so-and-so, and the bank acknowledges of it. We say that I'd like to buy this house. Only when the bank goes without any obligations from my part, when he buys the house and takes it in his possession, and now he's stuck with it, only then, if he comes to me and says, listen, I bought it for this, and I'm going to take 20% interest over you. Are you interested? If I have the free will to accept or refuse, this is legit. And the buying and selling is halal. But if I was compelled to buy from him because he already took my signature or took my checks up in advance, so now I'm forced to buy it, this is haram and it's not permissible. I believe we have a break. Stay tuned, inshallah. We will be right back.
As everyone knows, today Arabic is considered as very important, very significant language. How can we produce the sound, the state of voicing, place of articulation, the manner of articulation? So in Arabic, the words which are written are pronounced.
We will learn how to write and pronounce Arabic letters correctly in depth. Explanation via board and presentation with many other important factors.
We have today more than 300 million people speak Arabic language. Not only in the Middle East, but you can find a lot of people speak Arabic language in Asia, Europe, North America, and in South America.
What are you waiting for? Grab your notebook and pencil and stay tuned for Learn Arabic at Huda TV. Ark of Noah.
We're going to be mentioning the significance of the Ark of Noah. Knowledge is the essence of everything. Once you get the knowledge, then it generates the desire and the motivation, and then it brings about the action. And we're going to be discussing the state of the Ummah and the division which unfortunately has appeared in it, and the methodology of trying to arrive at the right path. Your system of knowledge or your system of motivation are hit by any of these threats, you will definitely go astray and you will be suffering from a disease in the heart. We're also going to be discussing what Allah wants from us. How can we make that? Allah gave us the revelation. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is addressing first and foremost the companions. If they believe in what you have believed in, then they are guided. So the real guidance is what the Prophet ﷺ and the companions were upon.
Join Sheikh Mutassim in the program Ark of Noah and discover the answers to these questions.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back. Sister Sidra had a second and third question. The second question was related to, is it permissible for a person praying, offering prayer after tashahhud and before salam, to recite Quranic du'as, such as saying, رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنًا وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنًا وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ, or du'a from the sunnah, and there are so many and plenty of them. So she is asking, is it permissible for us to do this before concluding our prayer? And the answer is definitely yes. Not only that, it is permissible for you to ask Allah whatever you want, because this is the time for making dua, as instructed by the Prophet ﷺ. So if you'd like to make dua that Allah Azza wa Jal make all of your children pass the exams with A+ grades, you can do that. If you want to ask Allah for forgiveness, if you want to ask Allah to pay your debts, if you want to ask Allah to bring back your husband to the straight path, all of this is permissible, inshallah. And the third question is that, is it necessary for a woman to cover her head while reciting Quran and while doing adhkar, especially if there's no one else except her mahrams? Now, this is a misconception that a lot of the Muslims have. It is not at all mandatory, nor it is part of the sunnah for a woman to cover her hair or to wear the hijab when she's reciting the Quran or when she is making dhikr. And I've heard also this question so many times. A lot of the sisters ask, and they say that the elders, whenever the adhan is being called, they start to wear the hijab. So is this part of the sunnah? And the answer is definitely not. This is part of innovation. You are not supposed to cover yourself unless you are in the presence of non-mahrams, or you are praying, you want to pray. Other than that, you are at the comfort of your own home, surrounded by your mahrams. There's no need for you to do any such thing. And furthermore, Dr. Uthman Abu Bakr sent us an email asking about the kind or the type of a dog that when passing in front of a person offering prayer, this would interrupt his prayer and it would void it. And the answer is in the hadith. But maybe some of you may not know this fact. Well, it is an authentic hadith in the Sahih, where the Prophet ﷺ told us that if a person is not praying to a sutra, is not praying to a visor or a petition, and a woman, a donkey, or a black dog passes between his footsteps and where he prostrates, then his prayer is void. And this hadith was not accepted by Mother Aisha, may Allah be pleased with her, thinking that this was something different to what she believed in, because she had a misconception. Yet this was a mistake from her, may Allah be pleased with her, because all the other companions such as Umar ibn Umar, Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, and all the other companions who reported such a hadith or applied its verdict, they all accepted it to be an authentic hadith. Her misconception was that how would a woman void a man's prayer if she passes through him, when the Prophet ﷺ used to pray night prayer while I was lying in front of him? And the scholars answered this simply by saying that the Prophet said that passing of one of these three nullifies the prayer, voids the prayer. But if you're praying to a woman who is either standing, sitting, or lying down, she did not pass in front of you, and therefore your prayer is valid. Likewise, we so many times pray to men sitting in front of us and use them as a visor or as a sutra. Therefore, there is nothing wrong in that. So, is this to all kinds of dogs? The answer is no. It's only for a black dog who is completely black. And why is that? Well, because this usually is that such a dog is a devil, meaning that it is the top in evil among his peers. So the Prophet described him as a shaitan. And we take it as it is. We don't go into details. Only the black dog, that from dogs in general, that would void your prayer. And not if he passes like 3 meters in front of you. He has to pass between where you stand and where you place your forehead when you prostrate. So if he passes away from that, your prayer is valid and it is not affected, insha'Allahu azza wa jal. And we have another email from Brother Akil or Akhil, and he's saying that he lives in a hostel, in an inn or in a hotel, and the masjid is quite far from his place. So he prays Fajr in his room. But Fajr starts at 4:30, and he tends to sleep and prays at 5:30, while sun rises at 5:50. So he prays 20 minutes before sunrise. So is this permissible or not? First of all, it is not mandatory for you to pray in the masjid if you are away from the masjid, to the extent that if you were in normal conditions, no concrete buildings, no air conditionings, no car noises, if in normal conditions a man comes up on top of the roof of the masjid and starts to shout the adhan, the distance that his voice would reach within this vicinity, you are obliged to attend the prayer in the masjid. Usually this is approximately in a circle of a diameter of 3 to 5 kilometers. So if you are this far, you have to attend the prayer. If you're further than this, then you can pray in your home. The usage of loudspeakers does not affect the situation. Meaning that if I live 10 kilometers away from the masjid, but they use big loudspeakers, and the adhan reaches me, am I obliged to go and pray in the masjid? The answer is no. Because this was not at the time of the Prophet ﷺ. So what the voice of a normal person without using mics or loudspeakers, the distance that it travels, this is the legitimate distance. If you are in the vicinity of such a distance, you must attend the prayer. Second of all, the second point is that postponing the prayer until it's just about Fajr or just about sunrise, this is not permissible. Though your prayer is valid, but the Prophet ﷺ warned us and told us that this is the prayer of a hypocrite who waits and anticipates until the sun is just about to set. He prays Asr like a hen or whatever, just doing prostration and ruku' in a very fast motion and manner. Likewise, those who wait until the sun is about to rise and pray Fajr, deliberately, this is not recommended. Nevertheless, the 5:50 is for the sun to have completed its rising, which means that it started rising like 10 or 15 minutes ago. Therefore, the minute the tip of the sun rises, this is a no time for praying Fajr. Khalas, your Fajr is gone, and you're sinful by doing this. Therefore, you shouldn't take your time and enjoy sleeping until it's 10 or 15 minutes before sunrise, as this is a very dangerous zone. Brother Sahrud from Saudi Arabia, Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam, Sheikh. No, actually, my name is Shehroz.
Shehroz?
Yes.
Okay, I apologize.
That's all right. Sheikh, I had a question. I'm a student, and I'm going to start grade 12. And my parents are deciding to send me to a boarding school in India, where it's not a Muslim school. And I want to take the Quran with me, but India has a minority for Islam, and there are many cases where the Muslims are victimized because they're Muslims. So I don't know if I should take the Quran with me in this case or not.
Okay, I'll answer this question, inshallah.
All right, thank you.
Hayyakallah, bro. The question of the brother is that he's supposed to go to a boarding school and he's going back to India, and he's complaining that the Muslims are a minority, and he's afraid that if he does take the Quran, that it might be humiliated, that it might be attacked, or so he's asking, can I take the Quran or not? First of all, I disagree with you. I've been to India about a dozen of times, and with the grace of Allah, I was received quite well, very generous people. We had no problems, none whatsoever there. So saying that the Muslims are a minority, this is true, but they are worshipping Allah freely. They have the ability to make da'wah, to make conferences, to call for Allah Azza wa Jal. And the harmony there is quite nice. There are black sheep of the family everywhere. There are bad apples everywhere, even in Muslim world. But still, India remains tolerant. It remains, mashallah, willing to accept the others. Secondly, I believe that there is nothing wrong in taking the Quran with you as long as you're protecting it and you're keeping it with you and in a safe place. You're not going to give it to everyone to take a look at it and touch it and stain it with their impurity. No. So it's okay for you to take this. Thirdly, nowadays we have electronic versions of the Quran that even can be touched by non-Muslims. So if you have it on your PDA, if you have it on your mobile phone, if you have it anywhere, this can also give you the same role of having the physical book with you. And I believe, inshallah, that there's nothing wrong in that. And I pray to Allah Azza wa Jal that He helps you and guides you and protects you wherever you travel to, inshallah. Sister Sharifa from Qatar, Assalamu alaikum.
Hello, alaikum salam. Actually, I want to ask you two questions.
Okay.
Actually, I'm very sick. I have got diabetes and I have got high cholesterol, and I'm taking medicines also for all this. So I feel very tired when I fast during Ramadan. So what can I do if I don't fast? What can I do?
Okay. Second question.
Second question is, I'm really afraid because all these are hereditary diseases. My children may get this disease later. So how can I take protection for all those diseases? About dhikr or dua, what can I do for that?
I did not get your second question. You're afraid for your children of what?
They may get the disease later.
Okay.
Because all these are hereditary diseases. So I want to do prayer, dhikr or dua. What can I do?
Okay, I'll answer this, inshallah. After the break, we have a short break, so stay tuned, inshallah, and we'll be right back.
The tension there, what about the North Korean nuclear program and the six-party talks? How will the tension there affect a relationship between US and China?
They did that early in 1993, and after long discussion and negotiation, finally they stopped their program.
Will the world be able to stop this flow of secrets? Will it affect international relations? Or will there simply, basic known facts for most experts and most diplomats?
And we don't know if there's more to come. It's information war.
Dear viewers, Huda programs can be watched in the English section of the in-flight entertainment directory on board all Saudi airline flights, domestic and international. Sit back, relax and enjoy watching Huda's entertaining and enlightening shows on your trip. Huda wishes you a safe and successful journey. Huda, a light in every home.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back. Sister Sharifa had two questions, and she's from Qatar. She is tested by Allah Azza wa Jal with a number of diseases, such as she's diabetic, she has high cholesterol levels, and she's feeling fatigue quite quickly. And she's wondering about fasting Ramadan. Well, this is something that a good physician and herself can only answer. Because even if you walk up the stairs 3 or 4 stories high building, you will feel tired and fatigued. And maybe shaitan will come and say that it's okay for you not to fast Ramadan. This is something that the doctor could tell you whether this is dangerous or you're unable to do this or you should skip this because this would make you worse, it would deteriorate your health and condition. Or he would tell you, no, it is acceptable for you to fast. You can live if you do fast, and inshallah it's not going to harm your recovery nor your health. And it's also up to you, because if you fast for 6 and 7 hours and then you feel that you're going to faint and you feel that you are unable to think or communicate or do anything in this case, yes, you can break your fasting. And we have to look, will you ever be able to fast during the year? Meaning that now it's summer, the day is too long. Okay, what about when it's winter, when the day is like 10 hours or less or a little bit more? So do you think you can fast then? If the answer is yes, in this case you have to make up the missed days in winter or whenever you're able to do this. If the answer is still no, I'm chronically ill and the doctors say that I'll never recover from this and I would not be able to fast any more till the rest of my life, if this is the case, then you have to feed one person for every day you miss in Ramadan. Ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him, used to do this at the end of Ramadan. So after 30 days or 29 days, depending, he would gather 29 or 30 poor people, he would cook a lot of food for them, he would serve it to them, and they would eat, and alhamdulillah. It is not, as a lot of the people may think, it is not permissible to feed people in the beginning of Ramadan, because this expiation, this fidya, has to be at the end of the ritual, at the end of the ibadah, not at the beginning. So you have to wait until the Ramadan is over and then you may do that. Her second question was related to her fear that this might go to her children and they may inherit this from her because of the genes and etc. So she's asking, is there any dua that I would supplicate that so that Allah would protect my children? First of all, have your trust in Allah. Depend on Allah. If you think about what will happen in the future, you may die tonight. If I sit back and just, I'm relaxed and I'm thinking, what would happen to my daughters? What would happen to my wives? What would happen if I break a leg? What would happen if I fall and my spinal cord is cut and I'm paralyzed neck down? Where can I get income from? Who will protect my family? I would die if I do this. And do you think no matter how hard you try and think about things that you can orchestrate life? This is something in Allah's hands. Don't neglect everything saying, let it be. Whatever is going to happen is going to happen. I'm not going to think about the future. I'm not even going to plan for a good future. I'm not going to work. I'm not going to study. I'm not going to do anything. Whatever Allah Azza wa Jal decreed, it will happen. This is insane. But at the same time, don't ever think that you will have the perfect plan and that you will have it as you want it. It will happen as Allah Azza wa Jal wants it. So have your dependence on Allah. Have your reliance on Allah, and don't think about your children. The one who protected you and the one who made you grow up to be the person you are is the one who is going to take care of your children and make them, inshallah, leading a happy life. Is there any harm in making dua? Not at all. Is there any prescribed dua? Only those hadiths that the Prophet ﷺ used to supplicate to Allah Azza wa Jal in the morning and the evening. For example, the long hadith, and you will find it in the fortress of the Muslim. Allahumma inni as'aluka al-afiyata fi dunya wal-akhirah. Allahumma inni as'aluka al-afwa wal-afiyah fi dini wa dunyai wa mali wa ahli. So you're asking Allah Azza wa Jal for afiyah, for forgiveness and for good health and for protection from all calamities in your religion, in your body, in your wealth and in your family. The Prophet used to observe this long dua. It's longer than this, but it is beautifully stated by the Prophet ﷺ as usual. So if you listen to it and if you do it yourself, you will find, inshallah, great reward at the side of Allah. Brother Abdullah from Nigeria, Assalamu alaikum.
Yeah, wa alaikum assalam.
Yes, brother, what's your question?
Hey, Sheikh, I'm asking about how people in Nigeria that they are Muslim, but they are dressing anyhow. They are just naked, and their prayer, they don't know what the reason is it. And please,
am I unable to understand you? Who are you asking about? What are these people?
I mean, the people that are Muslim, but I don't know what the reason is. They don't know the right thing to do. They're dressing and how and their prayer.
Okay. Okay. I'm unable to understand the question. Apparently, Brother Abdullah is asking about a certain group who are dressed differently and they don't know what they're doing. I don't actually know what they're doing. So, unfortunately, I can't answer your question. Maybe if you would like to write it down, think it over, and write it down in an email and send it over, I'll, inshallah, try to address this issue later on. Sister Nigar sent an email, and she's complaining about how her husband had changed. She's saying, subhanallah, we had a beautiful relationship and my husband was very caring and loving. Whatever little things I used to advise him and tell him about, he used to do them. So whatever advice I would give him about Islam, he would, mashallah, do it, but and get the energy for that. And now, subhanallah, he has changed. And nowadays, he doesn't seem to like any things related to sunnah. And when I tell him to follow or to do this, he gets angry. And she prays for him that Allah Azza wa Jal would return him back to being the good man he was and being the love of her life in her marriage. So she's depressed. Well, this is a test from Allah Azza wa Jal. You cannot have life going on the same pace. You have your ups and you have to have your downs. And this life is not an easy ride. And it's not a roller coaster at the same time. But it is a test from Allah. Allah Azza wa Jal created us to test us. And He is telling us that paradise and hell is waiting for us. So you have to tolerate your husband. You have to examine and scrutinize and analyze your life. What made him change? Is it that you're not taking care of yourself? You're not the woman he married 10, 15, 20 years ago. You're not taking care of yourself. You're not taking care of the children. You're taking things for granted. Is it because he was so kind and nice and loving to you throughout the previous years? You took that for granted and you stopped improving, and that is why he is not interested in you anymore? Is it because you're nagging him about things that are an issue of dispute, yet you're insisting that he has to do it? This is sunnah, you have to follow it. And he may think that it is not mandatory. Why should I do it? So you have to revise your life and see if you are bossing him a lot, if you're bullying a lot, and you have to know what to do. If nothing is applicable in your case, and you are the same soft and nice and loving and caring woman, in this case you have to look into his life. What has been introduced to his life? A new job, a new career, lots of debts, lots of financial obligations, and you have to think how you can improve his life. And finally, if nothing works, you have to communicate with him, tell him, speak out your heart, and tell him that you would love to sit with him and with a third person who would give you marriage counseling. This may help, inshallah. Sister, I forgot the name, I believe she's Afnan from Saudi. Afrain from Saudi.
Hello?
Yes, sister. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. This is Afrina from Saudi Arabia.
Okay, sister. What can I do for you? Please turn off the TV,
I have
please.
a question. I am a new Muslim.
Okay.
I'm a new Muslim. Hello?
Yes, I'm with you. Yes, listen to me from the phone, please.
Okay. I was before him Christian because my family was Christian. Now I am Muslim. When I was visiting my family, how can I go in front of them? Because now I am Muslim. I have to wear the hijab. I have to wear the abaya. So what is the solution for that?
Okay. And any more questions?
After the second question, when we are doing the wudu, should we have to cover our private parts, or is it okay with the after shower alatul we have to do the wudu? Is it okay? That's all. Thank you.
You're welcome, sister. Jazakallah khair. This was Sister Afrina from Saudi Arabia. I believe we have a short break. After the break, inshallah, we will go and address her questions, inshallah. So stay tuned.
The main concepts of Islamic economics, how is it different from the Western theories?
And the beauty about Islam is not that it just came as a religion to perfect the relationship of the servant of Allah with Allah, but also it came to perfect the relationship of the servant of Allah with others. The beauty about Islam, Islam comes and brings the interest of the public and the interest of the individual together.
How is Islamic banking different from the traditional banking system?
The concept of riba is that I lend you money, I give you a loan, in return that you give me back that loan with an extra at the top.
The idea of the stock market itself is halal or haram.
So these are the main conditions that the scholars put with regards of the share market.
Let's talk.
So this is something that you have to point out to them in the Bible.
Something which is, I think, very badly needed by the youth, which is staying firm on the truth.
This is just one of the greatest examples for me of how to control your anger.
Within the framework of being the cleanest religion, the cleanest jurisprudence, and in the meantime, the kindest religion to animals.
Watch Let's Talk with Khalil Amanet as he interviews guests and discusses a variety of topics, everything from youth issues to religious issues. Join us here on Huda TV.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah and welcome back. I believe we have Sister Siba from Canada. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. How are you, Sheikh?
I'm fine, thank you. Jazakumullah khair.
Okay, brother, I have two questions.
Okay.
My first question is, in India, when we were young girls, and we were taught that when a girl experiences her period, and whatever dress she wears, whether an outer garment or an inner garment, everything has to be washed once she becomes clean from her period, like once she takes the ghusl. But you know, sometimes a situation comes when you are in your periods and you have to wear a dress which cannot be washed like often or something like that. So, and as you know, the dry cleaning is quite expensive out here.
Okay.
So I would like to know, is this ruling true when it comes to wearing any dress, whether I'm not talking about specifically inner dress, even an outer dress like a jacket or something?
I'll address this inshallah. Second question?
And my second question is, if a woman is experiencing her period and she reads her askar, the morning and evening askar, but it's not memorized, so she reads it from a book. Can she read it while she's in her period by holding the book in her hand and reading from it, actually?
Okay.
Okay? And Jazakallah khair.
We go back to Sister Afrina's question, and she says that she is a newly reverted Muslim. MashaAllah, tabarakallah, may Allah bless her and bless those who led her to finding Allah Azza wa Jal and the true religion of Allah. And I give her the glad tidings that all of her sins are wiped away, alhamdulillah, and she now is starting a new chapter. Now, regarding visiting her family back home, and they're still Christians. She's wondering how would she be dressed. Well, for those who are mahram to you, meaning that for your father, for your siblings, brothers, for your nephews, for your uncles, they are your mahram, meaning that they are not permitted to marry you no matter what. They are your blood relatives that can never ever marry you. So for them, you can sit in front of them like you sit in front of other women, meaning that you can show your hair, your neck, your arms, the lower legs, etc. Sitting in the home like you sit with your brothers and sisters. There's nothing wrong in that. To those who are foreigners, whether they're Christian or Muslims, even your cousins, whether they're Muslim or non-Muslim, you have to be fully covered and wearing the hijab from them. So if you're asking about your siblings and your parents, then you have no problem. If you're asking about a situation where the house is mixed, cousins and second cousins and people who are strangers to you, in-laws, for example, you're here and there, in this case, no, this is not permissible. You have to stay and remain fully covered and not to associate yourself with those who are not permitted for you to do that. The second question is regarding covering the awrah when performing wudu. If I'm performing ablution for prayer, do I have to be fully covered, or can I do that while taking a bath? The answer is no, you don't have to be fully covered. If you wake up in the morning and you go to the bathroom and you're only in your underwear, for example, and you perform wudu, your wudu is valid, and you don't have to cover your awrah for that. We have a caller from Saudi. I did not take the name. Abu Zubair, Assalamu alaikum, Abu Zubair.
Hello, Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, Sheikh. This is Abu Zubair from Saudi.
Yes, brother. What's your question?
My question is regarding the Surah Fatiha recitation in the loud prayers like Fajr and Maghrib and Isha.
Okay.
If the Imam has completed the Surah Fatiha, is it compulsory for us to recite it, or just to follow the Imam with the
Got your question.
to the surah what he is reciting it?
Got your question. Any more?
No, sir. Thank you.
Jazakallah khair. Going back to Sister Siba from Canada, she's asking about this misconception that if a woman is in her period, in her menstruation, and they had this misconception that once she is pure, once she can pray, she has to take all of the clothes that she wore and she has to wash them. This is wrong. Not only the outer garment, even the underwears, everything you wear, you do not have to wash anything at all unless it's smelly because of the sweating, etc., or because of the stains of the blood. Other than that, it's pure. Why should I wash it? It's clean. So if a woman wears a dress while she has her period and she attends a wedding and she comes back and a few months later she wants to wear it again, no one would tell her go and wash it. And this is not part of the sunnah. Actually, it is part of the innovation in bid'ah. The Prophet ﷺ used to share the same bed with Aisha and other wives while they had their menses, and they used to cover themselves with the same blanket. Sharing the same bed, sharing the same blanket, this means that, and the Prophet never washed his clothes after waking up. So this is a misconception. As for holding the book that contains adhkar, supplications and invocations and remembering Allah Azza wa Jal, even if you have your menses, even if you are having this major impurity, it is not a prerequisite for touching such a book. So you can go ahead and recite and read it and hold it as much as you wish. The problem was among the scholars regarding touching the Quran. And this is an issue of dispute, but regarding holding a book of adhkar, you have the green light to do this. Brother Abu Zubair from Saudi, he's asking about the ruling on reciting the Surah Al-Fatiha, chapter 1 of the Quran, in loud prayers such as Fajr, Maghrib and Isha, when the Imam has recited it. So do we have to recite it or not? And if we have to recite it, what happens if the Imam does not give us space and a gap between the surah and the Fatiha? Or that is, let me rephrase that, between the Fatiha and the surah. If he doesn't leave a gap, so what should I do? It's an issue of dispute. And some scholars say that it is a must that you read the Fatiha. And this group of scholars is led by Imam al-Bukhari, the compiler of the Sahih. And another group said, no, you must not recite anything, even the Fatiha. And this group was led by Abu Hanifa. And each have their own evidences. And if you look deep down into these evidences, like Shaykh al-Islam bin Taymiyyah, may Allah have mercy on his soul, did, he concluded and reached a conclusion, which he had written in a very short booklet, and he called it Al-Ilmam بحكم القراءة خلف الإمام, that attaining knowledge on the ruling of reciting the Fatiha behind the Imam. And in it he concluded, and he said that it is recommended, but it is not mandatory, to the extent that if you do not recite the Fatiha in loud prayers, that your prayer is invalid. It's not to that extent. It's recommended. And it is not so not to read it to the extent that if you read it you're sinful. No, it is highly recommended. If the Imam does not leave a gap, this means that he's following the Sunnah. Those Imams who recite the Fatiha and leave a short or a bit long gap between the Fatiha and the Surah, they are not following the Sunnah. The Sunnah is for the Imam to recite the Fatiha. After saying وَلَضَّالِّينَ آمين, he starts the surah immediately, not leaving a gap for anyone to read it, because the Prophet never did such a thing, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Therefore, it is mandatory for you praying behind an Imam to recite the Fatiha when it's a silent prayer, or when the Imam is in the third and fourth rak'ah of a loud prayer, because it's going to be silent again. Or when you are an individual on your own, or when you are the Imam leading the prayer, it is mandatory and it's a pillar. But if you are praying behind an Imam and the Imam is reciting the Fatiha in the first and second rak'ah aloud, it is recommended for you to recite it, and if you don't, your prayer is completely acceptable and correct. And I hope this answers your question. Brother or sister, that is, Tasmiyah, she's asking about exchanging wedding rings. What's your ruling on that? It depends. If you believe, as so many Muslims believe, that this ring is a lock, in Arabic they call it mihbas, meaning that once you wear the ring, this has locked your marriage, and now you are in this agreement, not with the devil, but with your wife, that this is marriage. And a lot of the brothers, Muslims, I've met them and I told them, okay, why don't you take it off and put a silver one? He said, no, my marriage will be affected. This idea that this ring affects your marriage is shirk. And this is completely unacceptable. If someone is just wearing it for the heck of it, everybody's doing it, it is highly not recommended. Because the origin of it is a Christian origin, where until now, the priest may hold the ring and say, in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. So these three fingers are used, and it's finally put on this finger. So it's either shirk to believe this, or the least it would be to imitate the Christians. And a Muslim has his own personality. He does not need this. If you love your wife to be, and you would like to honor her, ya akhi, buy her a diamond bracelet or a necklace, not a ring that she has to wear and you wear it and it has your names written on it. I'm afraid that this is all the time we have. So until we meet next time, fi amanillah, wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Is my heart's speech. Your mercy is what I beseech. Keep in my heart your remembrance.